paddling a boat while catching fish, surviving only by drinking water from banana trees, and savoring rich, creamy taro. Those were just some of the things Ed did in this challenge. His opponent? Matt Roy, a true survival expert who once took part in a 21-day survival series. And his swimming skills? Definitely no joke. With a total straight-line distance of about 65 kilometers, whoever reaches the lighthouse first will be the winner. The challenge hasn't even started yet, and Ed already asks the referee, asterisk, if there's an accident, is there a rescue helicopter? Asterisk. But the referee's answer left Ed completely speechless. What do you think the referee said? Drop your guesses in the comments below. We're dying to hear them. The very first task after the challenge began was to reach land. Both of them swam like mad toward the island ahead. It didn't take long before Matt set foot on the island and immediately started searching for shelter. Though night was already falling, Ed was still drifting on the sea. It wasn't until late at night that he finally reached the shore, his limbs weak and exhausted. He lay down on the rocks and fell asleep. Things seemed to be getting better when Ed woke up early in the morning. However, his surfboard had mysteriously disappeared without any reason. This frightened him even more than going without food for 9 meals over 3 days. In a panic, he rushed around the island to search for it. Matt had a great night's sleep. When he woke up, he also found fresh water, something even more precious than finding gold. Ed's efforts were finally rewarded. He found his surfboard just as the tide began to rise, filling him with joy. But now, he had another mission, finding food. He stumbled upon a giant taro root and, without a second thought, cut off a piece and ate it raw. The result? His tongue went numb the moment he bit into it. Guys, don't try this at home. Definitely don't follow Ed's example. Just a few meters ahead, he found a few banana trees. It's known that banana trunks contain a good amount of clean water, perfect for rehydration. He carved a large hole into the trunk and began to enjoy his first sweet sips of fresh water on the island. Meanwhile, Matt was taking a swim in the sea when he noticed quite a few plastic bags and other plastic waste floating near the island. Curious, he swam back to shore to investigate. There, he found a surprising amount of plastic debris, but it looked like he might be able to salvage a few useful items from it. Even so, Matt reminded himself, and wants to remind everyone, that we must protect the environment. Please don't litter and always dispose of waste responsibly. On this side of the island, Ed was starting a fire to prepare some roasted taro, a fairly easy task for someone like him. After getting the fire going, he built a simple shelter using bamboo and tree leaves right next to the fire. While waiting for the taro to cook, Ed made the most of his time by crafting a wooden paddle, hoping it would help him navigate the sea more easily the next day. Finally, he got to enjoy his delicious, rich, and creamy roasted taro, a well-earned treat after a long, hard day. On the other side of the island, Matt was working on his dream of building a large boat. He tied floats to both sides of a bamboo log and secured them tightly. After a full day of hard work, he finally took a rest to prepare for tomorrow's journey. By the third day, Matt looked at his bicycle and came up with a bold idea. He secured the bike onto the raft, hoping he could pedal across the sea. Next, he crafted a few propeller-like fins and attached them to the tires. These would act like paddles. The final step was testing it out. Matt pedaled with excitement and realized everything was working just fine. Well, except for one thing. The chain snapped. Ed's approach was much simpler. All he needed were 4 bamboo poles and his trusty surfboard. Just like that, his raft was complete. Matt hadn't eaten in 3 days. It was time to get some calories. He made a spear gun out of bamboo and a rubber band to catch some fish. Just then, he spotted an eel swimming in the water. He took aim and fired a precise shot, taking down the eel. He enjoyed part of it raw as fresh sashimi and saved the rest to make smoked eel for longer preservation. On the morning of the 4th day, Matt set off in a hurry, bringing with him some smoked eel meat and a wooden paddle as his essential supplies. As for Ed, he was standing on a high point, observing the wind direction. Based on his judgment, the wind was blowing toward the final destination. To get ahead of Matt, he decided to harness the power of the wind. He crafted a sail using palm leaves and his jacket, then made a bow and arrows from bamboo branches and shoelaces. Standing on the beach, he fired several arrows into the water one after another, but not a single creature surfaced. He was so frustrated, he couldn't even speak. Matt seemed to be thoroughly enjoying himself on his raft, paddling along while snacking, living his best life. This was about as perfect as it gets. But perhaps a 21-day survival challenge with someone of the opposite sex would be even more interesting. The final day of the challenge had arrived. With the help of the eastern wind, Ed's raft was flying across the water like an arrow. Suddenly, an idea struck him. Why not catch a fish right now? He grabbed his bow and took a shot. Luckily, he managed to catch a large sea fish weighing several kilos. He ate it raw to enjoy its freshness, and at that moment, his body was bursting with energy. Matt, exhausted from paddling for too long, had completely run out of energy. In contrast, Ed Stafford was still full of strength, powering forward with ease. He surged ahead and crossed the finish line first, claiming victory. His next opponent is someone truly special. His name is Hakeem. He's a survival expert and an American ninja with 22 years of martial arts experience. When the two first met, Hakeem told Ed that he had watched his survival shows and was a big fan of his skills. That's why he was eager to challenge Ed in a head-to-head survival showdown. The challenge takes place in the Zoj Marsh, located on the eastern edge of the Tibetan Plateau. This area is also known as the highest altitude marshland in the world. From here, both will trek 70 kilometers west through wetland terrain, then swim across a massive lake. Whoever reaches the opposite shore first will be declared the winner. At the referee's signal, the challenge begins. For Ed, walking through water wasn't his strength, so heading uphill was the smartest choice. After trekking for a while, the rain began to fall. Taking advantage of the downpour, he collected some extra water. At the same time, he even found a wildflower and happily munched on it like a tasty little snack. Hakeem, on the other hand, went straight into the marshland, and that turned out to be his biggest mistake. The terrain was far more difficult to move through than he had expected. Stuck and struggling, he decided to rely on his ninja skills. He started waving his hands, moving his legs in a strange rhythm, and chanting some mysterious incantation, and then Ed appeared, now making his way through the high mountain region. Thick fog surrounded him, making it nearly impossible to see. He could only move forward one slow, careful step at a time along the steep cliffside. One wrong move here, and it could end in a tragic accident. Not far from there, Hakeem also reached the southern mountainous forest, where natural resources were abundant and could be put to good use. He entered a cave and found some dry grass, quickly stuffed it into a bamboo tube he had picked up earlier, then sealed one end to make it easier to carry and keep it from getting wet. He discovered some fresh wolf droppings nearby. With the instincts of a ninja, he knew he had to leave this dangerous place as quickly as possible to avoid a potential encounter with a pack of aggressive wolves. Ed seemed to have better luck. He found a cave right up the hill. Taking the opportunity, he cut down some bushes to make a makeshift bed. Completely exhausted after a full day of travel, he went to sleep early. Meanwhile, Hakeem didn't want to rely entirely on the power of ninjutsu. He decided to use his own strength to start a fire, but unfortunately, that night he had to sleep without one. The next morning, he woke up with his body freezing cold, so he did a few martial arts moves to warm himself up. Meanwhile, Ed was following the sound of water and arrived at a stream that seemed to flow from the other side of the mountain, so he felt safe enough to drink from it. Somehow, his tooth mysteriously disappeared and never came back. He spotted a few goat tracks on the ground, and based on his experience, he figured that following the tracks downhill would eventually lead him to the foot of the mountain. Finally, our ninja managed to make fire successfully. He used a bamboo tube to heat the water before drinking it, then continued on his journey. Ed had reached the vast swamp, and the water ahead was getting deeper and deeper. This was a clear disadvantage for someone like him. He couldn't keep moving forward this way, so he had to turn back and look for another solution. First, he headed into the forest to look for shelter. He found a flat piece of land, perfect for setting up a simple camp, not only to shield himself from the wind, but also to protect against the rain. After that, Ed began searching for materials to start a fire. In just a few moments, he managed to light it up. For dinner, he roasted some frogs over the coals to regain as much strength as possible. Hakeem finally arrived at the swamp, but he couldn't find anywhere to sleep. So, he decided to rest outdoors, and spend the night under the open sky. The third day arrived, and despite heavy rain the night before, Ed's shelter was perfect. He stayed completely dry. He gathered materials to build a raft, preparing to cross the swamp. He also found some protein from insects and popped the rich, fatty bugs directly into his mouth. Our ninja is out searching for food when a mouse in the distance blocks his path. He quickly crafts a shuriken from 2 small branches. With ninja-like precision, he throws it toward the mouse. Bullseye? As expected from a true ninja, the shuriken lands perfectly, giving him a delicious roasted mouse meal. Ed is currently building a raft. He gathers branches, arranges them neatly, and ties them together. To finish it off, he adds a layer of grass on top. It looks solid until he climbs aboard. The moment he sits down, the whole raft sinks like a rock. Maybe Ed's not as light as he thought. Not giving up, he tried a different method. Ed rolled the grass into circular bundles, wrapped them with animal hide, and placed them back under the raft. And finally, it worked. The raft floated. Now that night had fallen, crossing the swamp would be too dangerous, so Hakim decided to wait until morning to continue his journey. He used a bit of tinder and successfully made a fire. At this point, the 2 men were on opposite ends of the swamp. Only 20 kilometers remained to reach the final destination. By the 4th day, Hakim also began his journey across the swamp. He crafted a special pair of shoes from his throwing stars to help him traverse the swampy terrain. Ed paddled through the night and finally reached the other side of the swamp. Luckily, there was no more swamp ahead. Not long after, Hakim caught up. Ed had chosen to go around to the right, while Hakim, by chance, picked the left path, a route that was 2 to 3 kilometers longer than Ed's. In the end, Ed was the first to reach the finish line and claim the victory.